October the 7th is Charles Evans Hughes.
Well, I think of him in the context, and I'm not sure that you two will, of women's suffrage. Charles Evans Hughes was a progressive on women's suffrage.
Ran against Woodrow Wilson.
Ran against Woodrow Wilson. And there were 4 or 5 states during this period that had women's suffrage. And so the idea of the women was to go and use their vote, get those states to support Charles Evans Hughes. And there was an uproar. The Wilsonians were furious about this. You just simply didn't do that. In any case, it didn't work. And Wilson is going to end up being the person who is pushed and pushed toward women's suffrage in 1920. But the other thing about the Hughes campaign is just how close it was. I think we think of Wilson as being somehow triumphant, but this is a very, very close election.
Hughes is actually one of the unusual figures in this list, in that his race for president is arguably one of the less distinguished chapters of an extraordinarily distinguished and useful career. He'd been a great governor of New York. Then he got on the Supreme Court. He left the court to run against Wilson in 1916. Was Secretary of State throughout the 20s, generally regarded as one of our best Secretaries of State. And then his great impact was, of course, when he went back on the court and almost single-handedly thwarted Franklin Roosevelt's attempt to pack the court, showing he had not lost his political moxie.
Carl Cannon, Charles Evans Hughes, governor of New York, Thomas Dewey, governor of New York, Al Smith, governor of New York, of course, FDR, governor of New York. What is it about New York in those days? Because you don't see any of that now.
I'm writing a piece about this now, and I don't want to give too much of it away, but I'm from California, and when I was a kid, California eclipsed New York, and this happened over a gradual period of time. I mean, let's just talk inarguably, in population, so that's a fact. But in other ways, too, that New Yorkers were reluctant to admit. Some of them have been admitted to this day. And what's happening now is maybe Texas is doing that to California. These things change. But Hughes, because he was a New Yorker, I'll say that he brought with him his attitudes, not just about gender, but about race. He's the racial moderate in that race. And if he defeats Wilson, Washington is not resegregated. That was Wilson's doing. Wilson went along. He didn't do it single-handedly. Hughes would never have gone along with that. And the civil rights movement might have moved along faster in a different stream. He's, of all the 14 on our list, he's the one where you start to war game if he'd have been elected, how American history goes in several different directions, on suffrage for women, civil rights. What does he do in foreign policy? Does he really, Germany sort of baited us into war, but Hughes have avoided that. He's the one you could write novels about.
He had a beard at least part of the time. Did he have a beard when he ran?
T.R. referred to him as the bearded icicle. He was a very chilly, aloof, full of rectitude. Yes, he did have a beard. When he stayed at Calvin Coolidge loved to pull practical jokes. And when Hughes stayed at the White House as his guest, Coolidge would send the White House barber up to Justice Hughes's room to give him a shave.
Crafting of the. But it was, as I remember, Wilson had to stay up. He was quite irritated because he had to stay up all night.
It was a couple days.
Yeah,
California, California decided
out,
the race.
Whether he won.